we use social media. It's not just about the platforms themselves.
To the preservation of the national unity and democratic stability.
Water is life, water is an essential service, and we must have to carry out the residents.
Local communities are not only vital to the growth of society, but they also form the bedrock of humanitarian development.
Hello and welcome to The Reporter, a news and current affairs program that goes beyond the headlines, bringing reporters from the field to give first-hand accounts and in-depth analysis of unfolding issues, correspondence perspectives, ensuring balanced, credible and comprehensive storytelling. Welcome once again. I am Aniti Patrick. It's good to have you join us on this edition of the program. Well, President Bola Tinubu has commissioned the newly constructed Bola Tinubu Complex at the Federal Medical Center, Abuja. The commissioning is part of efforts to strengthen healthcare delivery and expand access to specialist medical services in the country. Our correspondent, Ubong Usoro, has more.
The two-story healthcare facility is designed to provide integrated specialist and VIP medical services, featuring 8 consulting rooms, twin theater suites, ENT and ophthalmology departments, a fully equipped laboratory and pharmacy, as well as 9 VIP wards and 4 general wards. The complex also includes a coffee lounge, staff lounge, a dedicated private and VIP clinic aimed at serving dignitaries and private patients while enhancing the hospital's capacity to deliver quality health care. Representing President Bola Tinubu at the commissioning ceremony, the medical director of the Federal Medical Center Abuja, Professor Saad Ahmed, said the facility shows the administration's commitment to improving healthcare infrastructure and expanding access to quality medical services for Nigerians.
We are indeed quite delighted to have Mr. President to commission this important project at the Federal Medical Center.
Professor Saad noted that the complex was designed to meet modern standards of functionality, accessibility, infection prevention, and efficient healthcare delivery, adding that it would strengthen the hospital's capacity to provide specialist healthcare services.
I hereby commission this Bola Tinubu complex to the glory of God and for the benefit of Nigerians.
The commissioning marks another milestone in the government's efforts to strengthen the healthcare sector and reduce the need for medical tourism by providing more advanced healthcare services within the country. Ubong Usoro, Global TV News.
And joining me live in the studio is Ubong Usoro to speak on this issue. Yes, we have this commissioning, but what's the health sector looking like in Nigeria? Hello, Ubong. It's good to have you join me.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to come on your program.
Well, interestingly, that we have the health sector as one of the very important sectors to the nation's economy and also to people who are being governed by the president himself. Will the commissioning of the Bola Tinubu complex at the FMC in Abuja truly reduce medical tourism? Because that's one concern we have.
Yeah, I think it's a step in the right direction. There are still lots of questions. If you look at the United Nations benchmark for health, it says that a country should give 25% of its budget to health. In Nigeria, we are still struggling with between 10 to 12% of our budget. So that's worrisome. We've not gotten there. But I think that with this commissioning, this is a specialist center inside the FMC, Federal Medical Center, especially designed for VIPs and those who have specialist cases, cases like kidney cases, transplants, So the same services that are rendered by most of the hospitals Nigerians go outside, maybe for India, Canada, and all of those things, trying to see how to render those services to reduce medical tourism. I think if there's an option that you get the treatment in Nigeria and you get it outside, most Nigerians would prefer to get the treatment in Nigeria because it should be much cheaper, right? It is, but this is just a drop, because I looked at that center. What is a bed capacity?
Exactly.
How many Nigerians need these services? Maybe we have like 5,000 Nigerians that need the service, and we have a facility only for 50 persons. So now what happens to the rest? So yes, it's a good place to start, but there are still lots of questions.
I like the fact that you talked about the bed space and the fact that this is kind of created for VIPs to reduce medical tourism. But the significance of this whole idea is to ensure that there's proper healthcare delivery in Nigeria, and then medical tourism is reduced to the barest minimum. But if you look at the concerns of the rapid case of terminal diseases or issues where Nigerians are faced with on a daily, you wonder and ask if the Nigerians themselves, that's the citizens, really trust the system, the healthcare system, to wanting to go there. Because for instance, these are VIPs. So if you're not a VIP and you're in their need of medical attention, such as this special cases, how do you get the delivery as promised?
Right, like you've also stated, I think it's also a majority of factors. We cannot point to one. If there's ignorance in the system, a lot of Nigerians ignore signs, ignore symptoms, ignore their body telling them things. So most of the times they get into facilities when they're already at a terminal stage, and it becomes difficult to manage. That's one. Number two is that our basic healthcare facilities, which are primary healthcare centers, are supposed to be the first response unit. So before you even get to the Federal Medical Center, a lot of cases would have been solved at the primary healthcare centers before you get to our general hospitals. But what we have is that everybody now, because our primary healthcare, just like primary schools, have been bastardized. So people no longer send their children to primary schools. They send to nursery schools and later maybe to government universities. They still trust government universities. The same thing with our healthcare. People no longer trust our primary healthcare. So they prefer to, go to whatever means and go to the Federal Medical Center. So we have more cases at Federal Medical Center, general hospitals than primary healthcare, which should be the first responders in every community. So Nigerians also should learn to trust facilities at the primary healthcare center, but at the primary healthcare center able to even diagnose the problems. So it's a compartment of issues.
I think you just took it out of my mouth, because I was about to ask, how do we ensure that affordable healthcare provision in terms of infrastructure, equipment are there? I was recently at the primary healthcare center and I looked around. I saw where a child was being washed out from the hospital. I didn't really follow up the story, but I'm just looking at the scenario. One, it could be that the health concern has gone beyond the first respondent, just like you said, and it is going to the second point where he needs the med. So at what point do you think the system can provide the necessary facilities at the first respondent level, so that before the insurance gets to the second, and also gets the major point where it gets to specialist point, that they've gotten the needed attention across board? Right.
One of the things will still be our system. We should have a universal health coverage that, irrespective of whether you're working in government or not, you should be involved in part of that coverage. In fact, for children ages 0 to maybe like 15, there should be free medical attention to them across the country. That will give people the wanting to take their children to those places. Most of the reason why parents stay too late is because they don't have the funds. And also, we should make sure that all organizations in Nigeria have a health coverage for their staff. So many organizations do not have this. So people just manage. Economy is hard, difficulty. So that could be also one of the reasons why Nigerians stay too long to, get into those sectors. So majority of issues.
Okay, so let's look at the fact that President Bola Tinubu just commissioned this particular healthcare center, the FMC, to ensure that specialist level for the VIPs get the best treatment. Let's also link this up to the presidency looking at celebrating his 3rd anniversary in government, and we saw the presidency defending policies put in place, like that of the fuel subsidy removal and all that came into play, also the Naira and all evaluation and all that. One will ask, is this part of his ideals or achievements, in terms of tackling different sectors of the economy?
Absolutely, because it's a brainchild, the Specialist Center is a brainchild of the Tinubu's government. That's why it's even named Bola Tinubu Specialist Center.
Okay.
Right, so it is part of one of the things it's doing for its 30th anniversary. But I still have lots of questions. We want to see our primary healthcare center being very robust. We want to see our hospitals equipped. We want to see early detection, early testing, government giving subvention for specialized cases like diabetes that has been killing a lot of people, hypertension. We have to be more socialist inclined, not like socialism per se, but we have to be interested in the welfare of our citizens, because we cannot have a country where we don't have healthy citizens. So, President, you've done 3 years already. If you have to sit back and look, what can you do in this next 1 year that God has given you the opportunity to write your name in gold?
Okay, well, we hope that that opportunity that has been given to him would be able to enable him also write his name in gold, because like you said, the welfare of the people stands tall. Absolutely. And that's where people will say, okay, he's done well, it's time for us to see if he can still continue, or if it is something else that we need in terms of provision and meeting the need of Nigerians at large. Thank you so much, Obong, for your time. Well, amazing that you had a conversation around policies and how that affects Nigerians as a nation. Well, let's move away from that particular story and talk to what's happening within the holidays here across the globe with the Muslim faithful, as Muslims across Nigeria have continued observing the Eid sacrifice, also known as Kwabini in Arabic, popularly known as Leya, in commemoration of the Prophet Ibrahim's obedience and willingness to sacrifice for the sake of Allah. Beyond the slaughtering of animals, Islamic scholars say the act represents faith, sacrifice, and compassion for humanity. Kabir Hassan has more.
As part of Eid celebration, Muslim faithfuls carry out ritual sacrifice of rams, goats, and cattle in line with Islamic teachings. The practice, rooted in the story of Prophet Ibrahim's, peace be upon him, devotion to Allah, remains a central aspect of Eid al-Adha celebration worldwide. Islamic scholar Dr. Zakir Naik explained that the sacrifice is not merely a religious obligation, but a lesson in obedience, charity, and submission to the will of Allah.
It is your piety, it is the taqwa which reaches him. So we slaughter the animal not because the blood and meat should go to Allah. That's in most of the other religions. In the other religions, you slaughter the goat for the God, and you leave it on the idol. Maybe somebody else will come and eat it, the priest or someone, but you leave it to the idol for God. Quran says in Surah Anam chapter 6 verse number 14, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He feedeth everyone.
The meat from the sacrifice is often shared among family members, neighborhood, and the less privileged, reflecting the spirit of generosity and communal support associated with the celebration. For many residents who participated, the ritual carries deep personal and spiritual meaning. Performing the sacrifice brings joy and fulfillment beyond celebrating. It reminds us to care for others and strengthen unity in the community. Residents say beyond fulfilling a religious practice, the sacrifice serves as a reminder of kindness, gratitude, and the importance of carrying others, especially during festive periods. As Muslims mark the Eid celebration, scholars and worshippers alike say the essence of sacrifice goes beyond the slaughtering of animals, emphasizing faith, obedience, and extending support to those in need. Kabir Hassan, Global TV News.
And joining me to speak on the essence of the slaughtering, beyond slaughtering of animals, is our correspondent Kabir Hassan, who spoke to respondents who are marking the celebration of Eid. Kabir. Hello, Kabir. It's good to have you join us on this particular edition of the program.
Hello, can you hear me?
Amazing, Kabir. Let's talk about the celebration beyond the slaughtering of animals. What does the Eid sacrifice truly teach about faith, obedience, and humanity as the celebration continues?
All right. So the celebration of Eid sacrifice is an obligation and a duty for all Muslims who can afford to do it. Is a must in the Islam religion. So the Eid sacrifice is done after the 10th day of Zulhijjah, the Islamic month calendar, which is to the obey of Allah, of Prophet Ibrahim, when he was asked to slaughter his son, but Allah sent him a goat instead.
I like the fact that this speaks about the place of testing one's faith and believe in God's message through your worship. But let's also look at, in a time of economic hardship, how can the spirit of Eid sacrifice inspire greater charity and support for the less privileged? Because the less privileged don't really have access to things to actually enjoy the celebration. From your take and from the teachings, how can the spirit of this celebration, this Eid sacrifice, inspire for greater charity and support for the less privileged?
And I didn't hear what you said.
So I'm talking about the sacrifice because the teaching is about sacrificial giving and all that. But with a country or in a situation or in a time like this of economic hardship, how can the spirit of Eid sacrifice inspire greater charity and support for the less privileged?
The Eid sacrifice is a blessing, and with the current economic hardship, people have actually obeyed Allah's command, and many people have done it, and it has gone well across all areas.
The message of sacrifice itself, Kabir. Should the message of sacrifice and compassion, also generosity during the Eid, extend beyond the festive season into an everyday life for everyone across, whether Muslim faithful and also everyone practicing that understands what it means to sacrifice?
The sacrifice doesn't only stand during the layer period, but it extends throughout every time. So far as you are having something a good thing, as to appreciate God, you can do sacrifice.
Everyday kind of lifestyle that one should learn to sacrifice and also help ones in charity and also generosity and also showing compassion amongst brethren themselves. That's what it simply means.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Kabir, for your time. We appreciate it. Do enjoy the rest of the celebration. We look forward to seeing you bring in the part of the meats, if you have it that way. Thank you so much for your time, Kabir. Well, let's stick to stories around the Eid Kabir celebration. Well, we still have Muslims across the globe mark the Eid Kabir. Worshippers in the Gulf have defiled obstacles to partake in this year's observance. From Palestinian to Iran, the conflict between Israel and Hamas has reshaped reality for people living in Gaza, while US-Iran war has cast a tense atmosphere across Tehran. Uyi Agmofegbe has the rest of the story.
Palestinians in the Gaza Strip have marked Eid al-Adha amid widespread destruction, severe shortages and grief. Instead of traditional feasts and family gatherings, residents are dealing with soaring prices, displacement and mourning. The ongoing conflicts and blockades have made the holiday practically unrecognizable in the enclave. For the third consecutive year, most Gazans have been unable to perform the traditional animal sacrifice known as Umdiya, with the livestock sector devastated and a single sheep reportedly costing up to between $5,000 and $7,000 due to extreme shortages. Prices for staples like meat, gas, and traditional Eid sweets called mamul have skyrocketed, making it impossible for displaced families to celebrate. Hundreds of worshippers have performed Eid al-Adha prayers in Tehran under a fragile ceasefire reached in early April between Iran and the United States after more than a month of intense fighting. The prayers were held at the University of Tehran and led by Hajjat al-Islam Ahmad Khatami, gathering attended by a large number of Tehran's faithful people, military, and national figures. The Eid al-Adha prayer ceremony began at 7 a.m. with the recitation of verses from the Holy Quran by a prominent Qari, as well as a eulogy recitation. In the first sermon of the Eid prayer, Hajjat al-Islam Khatami congratulated all Muslims around the world and advised all worshippers to observe divine piety. On a remarkable note, however, Muslim devotees have carried out the final major ritual of Hajj pilgrimage, the symbolic stoning of the devil in Mina, Saudi Arabia. The ritual sees pilgrims throw pebbles at pillars representing the devil, reenacting the Prophet Abraham's stoning of the devil at the three places where Satan is said to have tried to dissuade him from obeying God's command to sacrifice his son Ishmael. The white-robed pilgrims have been contending with intense desert heat as they perform the days-long, mostly outdoor rituals with temperatures reaching 44 degrees Celsius in Makkah and Mina. Uyi Agmofwegbe, Global TV News.
Well, I felt a bit of that seeing the celebration across war zones and how devastating it is for me here, seeing how they had to celebrate walking through the graveside and talking to loved ones who are far gone. Quite an experience there. Well, I have Uyi joining me live in the studio to speak to this issue. Hello, Uyi. It's good to have you join me.
It's a pleasure always. Thank you.
Well, here you have it, where Muslims across the globe are celebrating the Eid Kabir, and then, of course, a whole lot of concerns raised. And here in Nigeria, we can see how people are celebrating, and then going across the globe and seeing this get me a different feeling and how this is panning out. Well, as the Muslims celebrate the Eid Kabir across the world, how has this conflict and split changed the meaning of this festivity for you, looking around and taking your time to see what it's like across the globe?
First of all, it's a pleasure to be here. It's to establish the fact that, once again, there's a significant amount of unequilibrium in terms of the experiences that people are having across the world. We saw that during the Christmas period, for example. But then it wasn't quite, it didn't quite get done on us that it was going to be the same kind of reality at Salah, Big Salah in that case, as we call it. While in Saudi Arabia, it's not the same thing, of course, across places like Qatar and the UAE, things are far calmer, so to speak. But then in Gaza, of course, since 2023, this has been the reality at Salah period, especially starting from 2021. So it's the third year and counting for them, right? So on the one hand, you can't boast of a roof over your head. On the other hand, you're not sure what happens next because Israel, of course, is still bombing and the entire, as it were, hostility continues, right? So we can see that happen in Gaza. But for Tehran, or generally speaking, for Iran, it is a different kettle of fish altogether because this is the first time they're having this kind of experience in several decades. So for them, they're still trying to wrap their heads around how, on no less a day than Salah, they have to deal with this kind of reality. It's quite painful for them, right? Because as it stands right now, in the middle of all this, the U.S. and, of course, the Iranian authorities are still in between whether or not they are going to reach a deal in terms of ceasefire and how ultimately they will end or could end the war between both countries. So it just simply shows that this is a different kind of experience as far as Salah goes for Iranians generally, and in particular for those in areas that have been adversely impacted on account of the hostility between Tehran and Washington.
Well, I see this, and just like you mentioned, we didn't say that it was going to play out in this kind of dimension, but amazingly it has happened, and what can we say? But the concerns or what's raised basically is that the fact that Gaza, just like you mentioned, saw in a different dimension. So one would be wondering, with Gazans unable to afford the basic Eid tradition due to the war happening across them, what more can the international community, just like you mentioned, I also putting out do to ease this humanitarian crisis that has rocked Gaza and Tehran and help them feel a bit more human or feel the impact of the international community?
I'm tempted to say that the world is at war because they say absence of peace in one part of the world also means absence of peace in another part of the world, right? Incidentally, last year, the U.S. officially, under the leadership of President Trump, withdrew all AIDS-related initiative on account of the fact that policies have changed. And we have seen the United Nations time and again lament how that this is going to deplete its ability to push resources across the world. There's one war between Russia and Ukraine. There's another war between the U.S., Israel, on the one hand, and then, of course, Iran on the other hand. And then you have Israel and Hamas, which has made Gaza the playground, so to say. With all of this, you realize that a chunk of resources from the United Nations and other, if you like, global non-governmental organizations or foundations are going to get sunk. Again, you have to drive humanitarian initiatives and things like that. And then you have Ebola outbreak now in the middle of all of this. So it just simply means that it was only natural that the people in Gaza, the people in most parts of Iran were going to have to deal with economic hardship in light of Salah, which is quite a sad development.
All right, before I let you go, let's quickly talk about the fact that this whole experience has revealed a whole lot of things, because of saying the fact that extreme heat, war, tensions, and hardship, millions still observe the Hajj despite all of this. And then the Eid prayer is also part of it as well. So what does this reveal about the fact that there's resilience of faith in difficult times?
It just shows that human beings are built different, right? Just a while ago, so we've seen how that people are still standing in these places we mentioned, whether it's somewhere in Iran or even in Gaza. I mean, Gaza is even more of the most inspiring story, if you ask me, because people still are able to defy the odds, still knock down obstacles, just to be able to ensure that they keep their faith going, so to say. All right, they may not be able to afford the essentials, maybe Iran, at Salah. Yes, exactly. The essentials as they normally should have. But they realize that, as my mom would say, where there's life, there's hope. And to see that happen in places that are being worst hit by conflict, by wars, and even pandemics, it just shows that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Well,
I like the fact that there's light at the end of the tunnel, because that's what hope talks about, and then it needs to stay alive to be hopeful. Thank you so much, Oyi, for your time. And happy Eid celebration.
I wish you the same. Thank you.
Well, there you have it. A whole lot of issues happening around the world, but like Oyi said, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And of course, on this program, that brings us to the size of it. Thank you so much for being a part of the program. A quick reminder that Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. To stay connected always, kindly follow us across all social media platforms using @GlobalTVNG. I am Aniti Patrick. Thank you for watching.
Be mindful of how we use social media. It's not just about the platforms themselves.
To the preservation of the national unity and democratic stability.
Water is life, water is an essential service, and we must have to carry out the residents.
Local communities are not only vital to the growth of society, but they also form the bedrock of humanitarian development.